Good afternoon. My name is Marvin Futrell. I am one of the co-chairs for the King County Regional Homeless Authority Continuum of Care Board for an Advisory Committee. Thank you for joining us at our regular board meeting. I'd like to start us off with a grounding. I would like to offer land acknowledgement, and then I'll pass it to Dr. Sam and Jaja for more context about why we're here today. The King County Continuum of Care Board acknowledges that we work on the unceded traditional lands of the Coast Salish peoples, especially the First Peoples of Seattle, the Duwamish people, the original stewards of the land, past and present. We honor with gratitude. See, I write these things and then I lose my space. Oh, gratitude, the land itself and the Duwamish tribe. This acknowledgement only becomes meaningful when combined with accountable relationships and informed action, and is the first step in honoring the land that we are today sit on and their peoples. Jaja.
Thank you. So I'm going to pass it to Dr. Sam. Would she like to do the theory of change? And then I will give you the context.
Good afternoon. My name is Dr. Patricia Sam. Our theory of change states if we create a homelessness response system that centers the voices of people with lived experiences of homelessness, then we will be able to focus on responding to the needs and eliminating inequities in order to end homelessness.
Thank you, Dr. Sam. This is Jaja. And the context is the Seattle King County Continuum of Care Board, referred to as the Advisory Committee in the interlocal agreement, serves as our region's CoC board and carries out mandatory functions required by HUD regulations. The CoC board plays an important role in ensuring that King County receives federal funding. Under HUD regulations, the full CoC membership has authority over the Continuum's work and the CoC board. Back to you, Marvin.
Thank you, Jaja. Alex or Catherine or Alex, can we do a roll call?
Alex.
Alex?
Oh, sorry, this is Alex. I was muted. Okay, please, I'm going to state your name. Please say you're present if you are here. Patricia Sam?
Here.
Tamara Bauman?
Here.
Kenyatta Carol Hillman? Kenyatta Carol Hillman? Okay, I do see that she's here. Lise Castro?
Here.
Thank you. Jaja Floyd?
Present.
Marvin Futrell?
Present.
Antoinette Lambert?
Present.
Thank you. Dorsal Plants?
Here.
Ruby Romero? I can see that she's here. Martha Sasser. Go ahead. Hey, Ruby. Thank you. Martha Sassarosi.
Here.
Thank you. Christina Sawicki. Sherry Tillman.
Here.
Galena White.
Present.
Okay, with 12 members present, we do have quorum.
Thank you, Alex. So a quick run through for our agenda for our regular board meeting for March 6th, 2024. We will begin with public comment. Then we will move to a severe weather update our presenter is Tony Machacha, and I don't see him on listed. So double check for staff. Then Assistant Performance Committee update by Board Member Romero. On to a preview of the Continuum of Care's Notice of Funding Opportunity, the 2023 debrief, the one we wrote last year, that will be given by staff member Gutierrez. And then we will have a discussion about the CoC Convening work group and its startup. If hearing no objections to the agenda as read, I would like to move forward with public comment. Alex, do we have anyone in the public?
I do not see anyone from the public here at the moment. No hands are raised, but I'll keep an eye on it.
I
Well, for
see
the,
one hand raised, sorry, through the chair, co-chairs. I do see one hand raised.
I can't, Alex, do you see the hand raised? And if so, let's give.
I do not. Oh, attendee, here we go. Yes. Sorry about that. Elizabeth Maupin. Hi, Elizabeth, you are unmuted.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we
Yes.
can.
Okay. It's just, I'm having trouble with my phone or with my microphone. I'm sorry. I noticed that severe weather is on your agenda today. I had a conversation with folks at the Red Cross who are willing to provide cots and some technical assistance to groups that are opening severe weather shelter. But the requests have to come from the municipalities. And I wondered if you have a way that you are getting that information out to all the municipalities, because in many areas, we have only daytime severe weather shelter, which is not particularly helpful when the coldest weather is at night. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Elizabeth. A quick question, a follow-up question. Is there a way that we can intercede or be an intermediary for, because there are a lot of municipalities. I mean, how do we get that out? Can Sound Cities, or can we figure out how to forge that connection that the Red Cross seems to require?
Yeah.
Yep, I wrote the question down, so I'll do the follow-up.
Sounds good. Thank you.
That was Catherine.
That was Catherine, sorry. Thank you, Jaja.
Does anyone see any other hands raised for public comment? Alrighty, as always, our board, public comment is always welcome, and it's open for the duration of our meeting. Our staff will monitor chat. If there are questions, please let us know, and we are committed to responding to questions left for our board each and every month. And we are going to agendize question and answers in the future. Alrighty. Is a question for staff. Do we have our first presenter? Are they ready?
Alon,
I am ready. This is Tony.
Tony.
Hello. Am I
So,
on camera?
not yet.
Do I do that or do you control that?
I think you can come on camera, I believe.
turn your camera on.
Turn your camera on.
Okay.
And let us please remember to state your name before speaking for the captioner. Thank you.
Okay. I had to be invited as a presenter and not as a participant. Greetings. Good afternoon. It's good to see you all here. Thank you for inviting me. How much time do I have for this presentation again?
20 minutes.
Okay, cool. All right. Alex, do I get to share my screen or did you have the presentation up and running already? I can't see it on this side, so. Let me know if I need to present.
I did promote you as a panelist, so you should have that option. But if you don't, you don't have the share option, share screen option at the bottom there.
No.
I love Zoom. Okay, give me 1 second. Let me pull up the presentation.
Oh, here we go. I have it. All right. Thank you. So I'm here to talk about our severe weather response. I'm going to walk through these slides, and then at the end, we'll have a chance for a discussion. And I've already given this presentation once a couple of weeks ago. So if you were there, I think Jaja was there. It's a lot of the same information, but just change it a little bit for this audience. So this covers our 2023-2024 winter weather season only, but of course we can talk about our year-round response at the end when I finish the presentation. Okay, let's advance the slides. So I think you're all aware at KCRHA, our mission is to significantly decrease homelessness throughout the county using equity and social justice principles. And our role in severe weather is to provide an emergency system of services, including opening safe, short-term emergency day and nighttime shelters, and also with coordinating outreach to unsheltered people during severe weather events. And we've been doing these with really good partnership from the City of Seattle, Public Health Seattle King County, the National Weather Service Seattle office. We consult with them a lot. King County Office of Emergency Operations, Harborview Hospital, University of Washington, those have been our key partners. And then we also have ongoing discussions with other cities like the North King County cities. They just signed an ILA for severe weather last year, and we opened the first shelter in January this year. So I'll talk about those also a few slides into this presentation. So talking about our response, we have 5 key stages of response, and this response is led by the team I support. And if I think I skipped my introduction, sorry. My name is Tony Machacha. I'm the Community Capacity Manager at KCRHA. And one of the roles that our team handles is leading severe weather response. I supervise a team of 2, so there's 3 of us. There was 3 of us until Friday last week. One of our members, the illustrious Miss Miriam Kasaikar, has moved on to greater adventures. So it's just 2 of us on this team. But during severe weather response, there is an expanded team of about 16 people drawn from the communications team, the emergency services team, and the sub-regional planning team. And so those groups will meet every morning and discuss operations, as I'll talk about in the next slide. So the 5 phases we have is monitoring, which we do daily. There is a report that covers about 40 jurisdictions in King County that's been put together with the support of our community impact team in partnership with a nonprofit Tech for Housing. And they've set up an algorithm that gathers data from various sources on the website, give us a 7-day weather forecast, showing us temperature, precipitation, air quality. And we get those every morning at 6. And I will look at it, and also my supervisor, Beth, will also be looking at it. And then we have our daily meetings around 8:15, 8:30 in the morning. We go over the weather forecast to see if anything is in the forecast for the next 7 days that would be cause for alarm. But then I also will look at other national weather forecast sources, and weather.com just triangulate this information to make sure that what we are seeing and what the public is seeing agrees. And usually weather.com has like a 14-day outlook, which has been pretty good in giving us the direction of what the weather might do. So for the 7-day, we have this automated forecast, and then we also cross-check with a 14-day outlook. And when we see something coming up in 12, 13, 14 days, then we start planning and start notifying our partners about a potential pre-activation. But that's as far as we can see. Usually it's 14 days is the longest out we can see something is going to be with us. And then once we notice that there's going to be potential for activation that meets our thresholds, which I'm going to talk about in the next slide, depending on what thresholds are being hit, either tier 1, tier 2, or tier 3, we usually almost are always in tier 1, and you see the level of activities there. But tier 2 and tier 3 are the ones that actually need us to do a lot more work, a lot more partnership, a lot more activation. So when that happens, we get into a pre-activation state where we start contacting our partners and our providers that have been that have contracts to say we are looking at an activation event. Then we also let our internal leadership know about what we're planning, and we seek the clearance from our CEO to go active. And then once we get the clearance from CEO, then we're now in the activation phase, where we have decided how long we're going to activate, what sites are going to be activated, which partners are going to be there, and then what's every morning, what's going to be the cadence of our meetings, who's going to be in the meetings and all that. And then when we think we're going to deactivate, we usually announce the activation with a potential to extend the activation based on what the weather does. And then during the activation is when we do everything, all the activities, daily monitoring with our partners, coordinating with other services. And then at the end, we have the deactivation announcement that also comes from our CEO. We're standing down operations. And then we help with closing down sites depending on the phase, on the tier of activation. And then we go into the post-event where we have meetings and discussions to look back. We meet our partners, talk about what happened, get any lessons, what did we do well, what did we not do well, what should we start doing, what should we stop doing, and what should we keep doing. And so we collect that from external partners and then also internally, and we synthesize all that, and we incorporate that in we have a playbook that we use, also set up according to these phases, and it has just a description of what everybody, it's like an operations manual for severe weather activation. So we incorporate the lessons in there, and then next time we activate, we have an updated playbook that is giving us what we should do this time, we should do better. And so where do people go when we activate either tier 2 or tier 3? So we have the existing emergency shelters with drop-in, and there's also shelters with expanded capacity, and we ask them if they can deploy the expanded capacity. And if it's a tier 3, we would also stand up severe weather shelters. We have a number of them that through the City of Seattle's partnership, we have a number of places we can open, public buildings, and then warming centers as well. And the King County Library library locations is warming centers. And then we have a partnership through the Mary's Place Family Shelter in Tikline. When we have severe weather, we have funds that they can access to refer families to short-term shelter for, usually it's hotel vouchers. And that program is administered by the YWCA, actually the hotel vouchers themselves. So the tiers of response, when we monitor the weather forecast, we look out for the temperature, for real feel, that is the combination of wind and rain conditions. If they predict anything below the high temperatures at 45 degrees or below for 3 days, then we would be in a tier 1 response, which is increased outreach through our partners, and then contracted partners, and then the provision of survival supplies for those who are living unsheltered. And then when the conditions dictate a tier 2 response, it's when the daily high temperatures are predicted to be at 40 degrees or below for 3 days or more. Or another condition would be if the daily low temperatures are going to be 35 degrees or below for 3 days or more. That also triggers a tier 2. Or separately, if the snow or rain accumulation that is forecast is going to be more than 2 inches in a 24-hour period, that also triggers a tier 2 response. And for that kind of response, we continue doing what we would do for a tier 1 response, which is increased outreach and distribution of survival supplies. And then we also open the temporary emergency shelters. In Seattle, we have a contract with Salvation Army to open Sodo Bay A, which has a capacity of 33 beds. And then we also have the contract in the north side with St. Dunstan's Church and the Urban League of Metropolitan Seattle. And that one has a capacity of 20 beds. And in other times, we've also been able to bring online a few other contracted providers like Lehigh at Lakeside, Lakefront, and a few other places. So we still, availability changes depending on the time of year and what else is going on in those spaces. And then finally, the most severe is a tier 3 event where the daily temperatures, if the high predicted is going to be at 35 degrees or below for a single day, or if the daily low temperatures are going to be 30 degrees or below for any single day, or if the snow or rain accumulation forecast is going to be 4 inches or more in a 24-hour period. And so we'll still do the same things we've done in the tier 2 response, and then we do a lot more with transportation arrangements, a lot more outreach. We coordinate with the fire department, with the county DCHS to provide people transportation to where we have the shelters open. We facilitate more hotel stays. I think we've even been able to facilitate hotel stays for staff at organizations that need to keep running these centers, but they cannot travel home in case of snow or ice. And we have more warming centers and even facilitation of storage for people who need to come in and bring everything with them. So with the tier 2 activation response this year, so far we have the Salvation Army Sodo Bay Air Center and the North King County. We have a partnership between the City of Shoreline, Lake Forest Park, Kenmore, Bothell, Woodinville, and King County. They're funding the running of the shelter, the staffing of the shelter at St. Dunstan's Church. And out in Snoqualmie Valley, we've had a partnership with Reclaim. I think they're the only shelter out there. And for the rest of King County, South and Southeast County, it's mostly independent city efforts. All the jurisdictions have their own processes for setting up shelter, for figuring out also the tiers. A number of them have been aligning with us as they can. And so we are working gradually towards bringing more of the other cities, other jurisdictions to align their activation, but then it also depends on the resources they have, particularly with funds for staffing. And then we also have the family intake line that serves the entire county. And so, like I said earlier, the pre-activation phase, we alert the cities, shelter operators, and the day centers that we have an activation coming, have a rough date in mind, and then we start setting up resource distribution and coordination, and also activate the family intake line specifically for severe weather. And then during activation, communications ramp up. We have daily communications to the community and to government partners, reporting updates or any changes, distributing flyers, and update the website with information. And then after the activation, we collect the utilization numbers from the shelters, which happens every day during activation anyway, but we go through and clean up the numbers, process any reimbursement requests, and then hold the after action debrief with our partners. For a tier 3 activation response, it's pretty much the same shelters we've had open, or the family intake line. And in the tier 3, we actually we work really closely with the government agencies for the other cities. And then we request the expansion of the shelters and the day center hours. Then we do a lot more coordination of resources, transportation, and logistics. During activation, we opening the public buildings that have been that are available. For example, if we want to use Seattle Center, we normally give them a heads up, and if they don't have an event planned there that they cannot cancel, then we'd have to find another site. Fortunately, so far we've always had either Fisher Pavilion or the exhibition hall. One of them has always been open for sheltering. We also have access to City Hall Seattle, which has pretty high capacity for the downtown area. And then we, during the activation, also we have the daily meetings every morning with us, the severe weather stakeholders, and communications as well, ongoing. And then at the end of the activation, data utilization, data reporting to, we create a report, our communications team creates a report for our boards and the media. And then we focus on closing down the public buildings, making sure everything is safe, supplies are secured. If there's any damage, we work on fixing it. And then we hold the feedback and after action debrief meetings, maybe a couple of days after that. So just a quick look at what happened in the 2022 to 2023 winter season. So that's what up to the end of last March. We had 7 events that we activated on different levels. And starting in November, we had 6 nights and sheltered 63 people. Through February 21st to March 9th event was 16 nights of tier 3 weather. It was really cold last night, I remember, last year, I remember. And we ended up sheltering 1,259 people total throughout those 16 nights. And just looking at the period between November 1st and March 31st, we were active for 56 out of those 151 nights, which is about 37% of the nights between November 1st and March 31st were a tier 2 or a tier 3 winter event. I talked a little bit about how we communicate, and we've gotten this question a few times since January. How do we get information out? Our communications team has been running our communications pretty well. We have the website, and then they've been doing social media. They have been on X, formerly called Twitter. I think they're on Facebook, and a couple of other sites where information is distributed. Emails are sent to our providers in a big email blast, and then through outreach teams specifically, we also communicate with the libraries and other partners in the system. And our website has information set up by geographic area, so people can go in and just click a drop-down button and see details about what's available in their area. And this is updated when we are active. This is updated 3 times a day. And as far as the lessons we've been learning and what we'd like to do to improve our response, we talked about these, and we've included in our 5-year plan. Under the severe weather activities, we'd like to be able to expand the number of severe weather shelter beds available, centralize and coordinate our response countywide, which we're already doing a little bit, but not quite, because not all the jurisdictions have interlocal agreements with KCRHA, so there's only so much we can ask them to do right now. But it also goes the other way. They don't have the resources to do what we do with the city of Seattle. So we got to walk those two things together. And then we'd like to incorporate severe weather funding into existing contracts, and we're going to be able to do that starting this year. We will do amendments, make amendments to add some funds for severe weather response. Right now, it's for the city of Seattle because our funding primarily is from the city of Seattle. And then we'd like to improve connections to guests to connection to services during and after activation. And we've been talking a little bit about that today and yesterday. We've been talking about outreach, and then also the idea that maybe even to skip the step of doing outreach to just let people know where to go. How about if we bring case management to our severe weather shelters? So we're going to be talking to our partners to see how we can make that happen in the next activations. And of course, the big thing we know that other cities that have been doing this for a longer time and jurisdictions that have been doing this for a long time is they have seasonal shelters that are open around November and close sometime in March. And we'd like to be able to also stand up a couple of those types of seasonal shelters. We have some good proposals from some of our providers already that we've been looking at. We just haven't been able to find the funding to do some pilot projects for the seasonal shelters, but I think that'll be a really good step to take. And then we'd like to show up our funding and reimbursement processes. We'd like to get a little bit more money, especially from the county. And then we are also exploring opportunities to engage community-based volunteers. It's a lot to try and manage volunteers, especially with a team of 3 people on my side. So I love the idea that I just heard about the Red Cross offering to jump in and help, because one of the bigger things, the struggles we have is with staffing of the sites. Even if we open the sites, it's tough. It's a tough thing to get people who can go there in the evening and do what we're supposed to do. And finally, for our work and our collaborations, starting in 2021, 2022, we've been learning a lot and also being asked to teach a lot about how we respond and how we have been helping our community to be more ready, responsive, and resilient, and particularly with centering the voice of those with lived experience and the community participation. So the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration through the National Weather Service recognized us last year as a Weather Ready Nation Ambassador of Excellence for the work we do here. Particularly with embracing the building a weather-ready nation for all by addressing vulnerable populations' needs. So we have a really good partnership with the National Weather Service, and we learn a lot from them, and they always seek us out when something is changing, when they think there's something we need to improve. It's an open door. We get a lot of information so that our responses are grounded in science, and they're also grounded in hurt and service to the vulnerable population. That's it from me. Thank you. And I'll stop sharing my screen for now so I can see your faces and we can talk.
Thank you, Tony. I see one hand, Doris, board member Plants.
Dorsal's fine.
Okay, great.
Hey, Dorsal.
Thank you for, hello. Thank you for the presentation. I just want to confirm something and then ask something. So it sounds like from your presentation, what you're saying is that for this most recent event here in March that we've had, for the entire city of Seattle, there were roughly 33 additional beds that were available for people that wanted to get out of the weather. And I'm wondering, based off of that, are you all tracking turnaways? Like, what is the process once there are, like, those 33 beds are gone? Are you just not offering resources at that point, or are you tracking people who want to come inside but can't now?
So thank you for that question. We are tracking utilization every day, every morning. And so far since Friday, usage has just gone up to 31 a night is the highest we've had so far. So we haven't had turnaways yet.
May, Jaja.
Yeah, Tony, can you tell me what does the NOAA stand for again?
NOAA?
The National
It's-
Oceanic.
The National Oceanic and Atmospheric
Okay,
Administration.
thank you.
You're welcome.
And also another question is, you said that you have had no turnaways yet.
Mm-hmm.
So if it gets to a turnaway, what's the option?
How do you track turnaways? If we know there's 1,500 people in downtown and there are only 33, or you add in the capacity of the other shelters, every one of those that we know are there are turnaways, but we're not scientifically catching them so that we can point it towards the system's need for expansion. How do we track
Yes.
those turnaways?
Yes, that's a $6 million question, I guess. I think so. What we have in place to help us do a quick response is we have the tiers to guide us on when we activate, and when the temperature drops to a level that's is gonna push more people to seek shelter, we go to the city of Seattle and tell them, hey, we go to HSD and say, we need City Hall. And they've told us that they will be on standby to activate City Hall anytime we notice that things are gonna be really, really in high demand. And that also happened in January. We were able to flex very fast and move from here to there. Like I remember we were waiting for exhibition hall to be open on the 12th, but then it got really cold on the 10th, and we said, no, we cannot wait until the 12th for exhibition hall. Give us a place tonight, and we quickly brought City Hall online. So we always have that on the back of our pockets. If there's demand for shelter that night or like within a few hours, City Hall can always be brought online.
Next question, I believe, is Ruby.
I think you're on mute.
Can't hear you yet, Ruby. It says, it looks like you're unmuted, but we can't hear you. Oh, now it says it's muted. You want to try logging off and logging back in? Okay. One of the questions I always have, since we don't get presented the entirety of a budget for the KCRHA, what is funded for severe weather shelter, the severe weather response?
Yes.
How much is that in the budget or total that either Seattle or other agreements are giving us to work with?
Yeah, so last year it all came from the city of Seattle. It was $430,000. And then this year we have received $529,647, I think, $529,000 from city of Seattle. And then the North King County cities and King County pitched in $109,000 for the shelter up north.
Thank you.
Sure.
Yes.
Sorry, I must have missed that. This, Alex, did you say that this city this year we received 509,000?
529.
529. Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Ruby? Technology struggles.
Ruby, do you want to type your question into the chat?
I think she's logging off and trying to log back in. One other question I have is, unfortunately, I've been around for a while. It doesn't seem reflected in the tiers. Some of the scientific learning we brought to bear in actually 2021, which was if it's wet, not just windy, if it's wet and 50 degrees, people die of hypothermia. or died to exposure. However, our tier activation system isn't incorporating the north end of that piece. And I'm not sure if that's due to funding, capacity, or a basic understanding of what really threatens folks who are outside 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Yes, that's come up. It came up when we were refining these tiers in 2021, 2022. But we inherited the tier system from the city of Seattle, and we tweaked it a little bit, and that consideration was there. And we've had a little bit of a back and forth because when we started using these tiers, we have HSD told us, you guys are gonna die from being open all the time because you've lowered them too much. And we said, but how are we gonna are we gonna let people stay in the cold already? So even for what we've done, and it's true, we have had to activate a lot more than HSD did when they ran this work. And so we want to do this year, and then we are going to spend the summer and fall looking back, because we've also gotten feedback from our partners at National Weather Service that our tiers need a little bit more refining. There's an area of overlap between tier 2 and tier 3 that will keep us activated all the time. But then if we're missing the other tier 1 area because of that real feel factor, which we weren't able to incorporate in the actual activation, it's there for the tier 1, but then it's not really there for tier 2 and tier 3, because if it is cold like it's been this week and wet, like I think the real feel is more like a tier 3 real feel than a tier 2 just based on temperature. So we are constantly learning, and then we look at the resources and look at especially human power. That's been the challenge, is when we go active, how do we match the demand for services with the places we have open? Because usually when we open a place, even when we have a contract that runs a year, we are utilizing that contract in very short bursts. And it's difficult for organizations to staff up for like 20 staff members for a week. And then what do they do for the other 4 or 5 weeks before the next event? So we're talking about finding really creative ways. We've been talking to the Compass Housing Alliance this week. We're working with them, and I'm going to be talking to Salvation Army again going into this spring. So by the time we get into the summer heat and the smoke and then the cold again, we'll have a much better response, especially for the cold, with the real feel and the wind. And of course, all this has to be, we have to get approval from our boards and leadership.
So Dorsal, then Ruby, and then if anyone else has any questions for this, please put them in the chat. We'll record them and we'll utilize our question review period next time we meet. Dorsal?
Thank you. And just really quickly, because I don't expect you to have this at the top of your head, Tony, although I'm impressed you had the current utilization. Do you have a turn away rate or figure for last year that you could either share or provide us in the future?
For last year, I don't think so. But let me look into that if we can find a way, if our partners kept that information, because I think what we normally do is when a place fills up for that night, we are able to bring something else online and people get referred there. But let me look into more in detail into that.
Ruby? Thank you.
Okay, I'm hoping you can hear me now.
Yes.
Yay! Okay, awesome. Sorry about that. Technical difficulties as usual. I just wanted to ask a couple questions. Thank you so much, Tony, for coming today. And I just wanted to know what the innovations were that were being praised by NOAA. I was just curious if you could elaborate a little bit on what it was that we were doing that they liked. And then the other portion was just something I heard from my community was that the locations moving around kind of got confusing. And I'm sure you maybe heard that as well, but I do see why it's important to have them in different spaces. So if there's a way to either have it, consistently in the same spots when it's open, or, some sort of systematic, because I think that gets missed when, you go there the next day and they're not there anymore, but your friend told you that they were, kind of a thing. So
Yeah.
just something to uplift. And thank you so much for coming today.
Sure. Yeah, thank you. To start with the second one, then the first one, just real quick, was that for Seattle or outside Seattle for the locations?
Yeah, that would actually be from what I was speaking was to Seattle. Yeah,
Okay.
the moving like City Hall and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it maybe in the future. I think we hear that, and we would be able to have better predictable sites. But as far as we can control, when we rely on the city of Seattle to give us the buildings, and so like when they say exhibition hall is not available until these are the date over here, but we know exhibition hall is the biggest space we have. We had to start with somewhere. We had to start with City Hall, but City Hall was not going to accommodate 300 people, so we had to expand. But I think we need to and we can do a better job of communicating, like just really finding where people are and getting the message out about the potential for the places to switch over. Like today and tomorrow is going to be City Hall, but Friday it's going to be Exhibition Hall, and get that information out up front at the beginning so people know today, tomorrow I'm going to downtown, and then the third day I'm going uptown. So we'll work with our communications team and also be able to plan better when we start the activation, to look 3-4 days in advance and see how we're going to be staging our the buildings available. To your first question, yeah, thank you. The innovations that we've been talking about and sharing with the NOAA, National Weather Service. One of the things that includes how we have been showing up for community and how we've been listening to what the community needs and trying to provide what the community needs. One of the things we talked about, and we had this cohort of future administrators come to visit Seattle from all around the country, and we shared with them about our summer heat responses, where we had opened up a bunch of buildings, City Hall and other places, and they got nobody during the heat, because during the heat of the day, people hunker down in their tents. And so we took the canopies we have over here and set them up in Georgetown and White Center and up near Shoreline. And we had misting fans blowing mist on people. And then we had cold drinks there. We had water, and we had the Urban League helping us with doing outreach and communicating and doing needs assessments on site, somewhere in parking lot somewhere. And we were driving around distributing resources. We got partnerships with the public health of Seattle King County. They gave us a bunch of water. I loaded them in my truck because it was a quick innovation on the spot, and we didn't have time to even rent vehicles. So like we took our private vehicles, loaded them with stuff, distributed across the county, and we got dozens of people every day. We got 30, 40, 50 people coming to a site every day to sit down, get something cool, get out of the heat. So that was something that the National Weather Service was really impressed with, how we were pivoting to meet people where they are. And we keep doing that in all kinds of situations. We try to see where are they. We take the supplies to the encampments also. With the tent cities, we actually take the cooling supplies there. We drop them off. We don't expect them to come find us.
Yeah.
That's
Thanks,
great.
Tony.
Thank you so much.
All righty.
Sure.
There are
I have-
a couple of questions in the chat, and then we have to move on, so we make room for Ruby's next space on our agenda. These would be some of the questions we'd like to hear an answer on. What percentage of the unhoused population would Tier 2 shelters serve? How do people in need get in touch with you in case of Tier 3? The next is the Metro Bus Route 208 is the only bus that serves reclaimed, and it runs infrequently. How do we get people across East King County to the one operating partner site? The next one is, what is the actual cost for severe weather shelter services? I think we jumped into that. But I'm hoping that this is, what would the cost be? What would we need funding wise to actually see expansion of services? And I want to thank you for coming.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for inviting me.
We're out of time on this topic.
Right.
So we
So
will record it in the chat, and we will record the chat, and we will answer the questions and come back to the board in a review session in the next month. I'm ready.
I'm sorry, through the chair, I don't want to be disrespectful.
I can't hear you. I mean, I can't see you.
This is Alon Gutierrez. I use he, him, his. I'm one of 2 deputy chief program officers at KCRHA. I wanted to flag that there are several comments in the chat, and folks have been saying that they have been trying to ask questions for a significant amount of time. And in the spirit of facilitating a transparent and public meeting, I just really want to encourage the CoC board co-chairs and members to consider responding to or sort of giving space for these questions. Many folks have given their time to attend this meeting today, and I think it is important that you all consider allowing them the time and space to ask their questions.
Thank you, Alon. I want to be clear, we rely on staff to see the attendees list. We do not monitor chat from the position in which we're at. If there are questions, please scroll them up, or if there are folks with hands up in the attendees, please let us know. That be Alex, Catherine, Alon, or Beth.
Yeah, hey Marvin, I'm here trying to speak. Sorry, I've been trying to, there's just a lot going on here. It's kind of hard to squeeze in, but we do have some attendees with their hands up, and you can see the Q&A. I did take some of those questions and record them so that we can get to them for next meeting. But I would also like to point out that Christina would like to speak as well.
Are there others in the attendees? Christina's next. Are there others so we can call them? And then Okisha Brandon. So let's call on the folks that have their hands up and see if we can get quick answers or an answer for them. Christina?
You are unmuted.
Thank you. I saw you did that. Yeah, I've had my hand up since 30 after. So as a CoC member, trying to raise it, not realizing you can't see my hand. And the only place I could put questions is question and answer. So I have no access to chat. So that's that, which as always pisses me off. 2, Mr. Tony, I have worked with FEMA. I worked for FEMA for 14 years. I responded down in New Orleans. And so I am quite versed and educated with a certificate in emergency management. And I want to say that I was turned away in January when it was cold out, as well as with 5 other people that were with me. And I don't think the way it's being reported back to KCRHA is being done correctly, if that's that. There are people that are turned away because of, I even was with one guy who had a service dog, and the church, churchy person that was helping out there said, no animals at all are allowed. And that is a clear ADA violation there. And the dog, literally this person was almost blind. So this was a seeing eye dog, still blows me away. So we definitely have some problems with reporting. I have been out of the picture for February and March because I've been in the hospital most of it, but I know for January, I know of at least, I could come up with 14 people that were turned away in January. And so that's one thing. The second thing is the cities are also sending housed people without electricity and heat to these shelters as well. Because in January, before I sought shelter the day before, I brought an elderly couple to a shelter in Seattle, and they have beautiful housing. She just couldn't keep the heat on. So we also have people who are sheltered without the bare minimum that are also using that. And the cities are telling people to go to your shelters as the emergency shelter. So you're being used as the emergency management shelter for it all, which that pisses me off because you're not getting the monies for that. That's not right. As someone who knows FEMA's rules and how this all goes, that's totally separate. We shouldn't turn anybody away, and I'm glad people can get served. However, we're getting the short end of the stick and we're not getting paid for those services. That needs to change. We need to go back to the cities and say, you know, we had this many people come from your zone that have housing, but did not have the ability, whether it's heat or cooling or whatever. That is definitely a huge issue. And I just want to see us stand up. And this is something I've talked about, I think Marvin could say for maybe 3 years now. We need a committee that comes together made up of us, you, them, and everybody else around extreme weather needs. Because with climate change and with a lot of immigrants, refugees coming into our community, this is something that is really important. And I'm not as good at Alex's numbers, but 300,000 for, that's nothing. I have done FEMA books and I can tell you that is nothing when it comes to emergency response and standing up stuff. So there's that. And I also want to point out good examples. Whereas we had total of so far this year, 6 cold weather deaths. Down in Pierce County, they had none. They had buses that went around town and they were warming buses. They used FEMA tech at the big bus zone. I call them bus zones, but I know they have a special name where, you know, and all across the county down there where they brought in those heaters too, that also did an exceptional job. But they, you know, we're doing this without the emergency managers, like leading it. Like, I don't understand how it got to us. I still am blown away because it's not being done like this across the country anywhere else. So that's the problem. But also looking up at our neighbors in Snohomish County, where I'm also connected, they respond, and 98 or more percentage of the volunteers are all churches. And I don't know how they do it, but these are people, they train them once a year. They have 5 different training periods, and people from churches go out and actually do the volunteer work. And they've really got that down pat for as much of a tight budget knit community they are up in Snohomish County. So we need to start gleaning and learning from, you know, across the pond. You know, they did a fantastic job with old military buildings. We need to do we don't have enough money. We don't have enough staff and for our size, and that's still, that's wrong. But I really think if we stood up a committee that works on this issue, I think I don't even think it'd be a short-term committee, because this constantly, because summer's almost here and we're going to have that kind of stuff coming up. But, you know, we really need to start working on this, because, you know, we've had 6 deaths due to cold weather so far this year. That is 6, 5 in the January and then 1 in subsequent time. Guys, this is wrong. And if it's in our bucket of stuff we have to do, and I know we're budget filled right now. Maybe it's time, you know, I'm willing to dedicate a bunch more time to help work with you, Tony, on this, because, you know, I've done extreme hot weather stuff when I was down in New Orleans with Hurricane Katrina. I know how to do that one, you know, and let me tell you, I'm in a power chair and I was in a power chair then, so we could do it. So that's me. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Christina. And then last, Keisha Brandon. Alex, will you let Keisha know she to be unmuted? And
Yep, Keisha, you're unmuted.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, I want to also echo how frustrating it is to have to, you know, hold in what you're trying to say when your hand's been up for so long. Far as every year we talk about the severe weather, we know it's coming. It comes every year. So it's frustrating to have the same conversations when we know the severe weather is coming. I don't think it's a matter of where the, you know, city halls and things like that are, you know, open to the community, because wherever they're at, people are going to come if they're in need. But I also do think it's helpful to go and meet them where they're at as well. My other thing is that where people want to help, they're going to come help. People are going to volunteer. They're going to stand up. So it's not necessarily a matter of volunteers and people coming out and helping to, make, things come together. I don't think that's the question. I don't think that should be the priority of what is getting done and what's not getting done. It's just, I don't know how obtainable this is, but, having it be a, what's the word I'm looking for? Not priority, but like part of the policies for certain cities or shelters to be open and available when we do have these cold winter months coming up, or these harsh, heated weather's coming up, to have those things in place, to already have certain, foods or gloves or cots or tents or even people and communities available. So when these weathers come, we're already ready. And also to fall back on what Christina said, is to mock some of the models that are working in other states and cities. We have the time in between time to say, okay, this is working for them. Let's adopt that. It's not hard. We've been doing this for years. We've been doing this since I was 21. I'm 31. Why are we still questioning the same things that we've been questioning for 10 years now? It makes no sense. We know the answers. And we are asking a lot of the wrong questions, and we're going back and forth with questions that have been answered over and over again.
Thank you,
We just
Keisha.
gotta start, so I just want to say that. Thank you.
Thank you. Alrighty, are there any more hands in the attendees?
Let's see. I know Tamara has her hand up. There are no more on the attendees.
Thank you, Alex. Alrighty,
Oh, yeah, this is
Tamara.
Tamara. Hello, this is Tamara. I wanted to support Christina's effort and make a motion to stand up a committee that is dedicated to climate change, like addressing climate change for real and doing quality emergency management. I mean, I don't think it's unreasonable to want more brain power and expertise to address this. But we will need more infrastructure and support to like make this dream a reality of like reducing carbon emissions. And like, we need to start focusing on climate change and its impact on vulnerable folks, especially those who are living outside. So yeah, I make a motion that we stand that up and have Christina as chair. I'm sorry, Christina, to put you on the spot there.
Yeah,
Is there a second?
I'll second that motion.
Thank you, Jaja. Any discussion? All right.
This is Ruby. I just had a quick question for KCRJ staff. Is this the proper method of doing this, or do we need to stand up a scope of work first? Or I'm just curious. I'm interested to hear how this process works. So maybe we can combine forces on another work group we've discussed in the past and possibly make it a dual thing. That way we don't have to worry about KCRHA staff being over, I don't know, occupied or whatever the word is.
So what we're doing is setting the intent in this space of the will of the board. The how we do it that comes after is done through a scope of work, and then work with the KCRH staff for capacity to actually staff the meeting, if that's helpful. And then I have, Tamara, is your hand still up? Alon, then Dorsal. Alon?
Hi, Alon Gutierrez, he, him, his pronouns. I'm not sure if Dorsal had their hand up before me, so I just want to pause quickly.
Well, I only see it left to right. I don't know if it orders itself.
Alon, yours was up first.
Yes.
Okay.
Alon, you were first.
Thank you so much, Tony, and everybody for your feedback and questions. Just want to say again, I feel like we're much more aligned than it may sort of feel as part of this conversation as it relates to our desire to, expand and bolster the severe weather response. We are committed to, as I have shared earlier in, I think around November 2023, that we do intend to request more funding for our severe weather response. We cannot mobilize the response that we want to without additional funding. So I just want to say that we have honored that promise that I made to you all, that we are asking for more money to expand our response, and just acknowledge that Tony and Beth, as well as the many staff who are part of the emergency services team, as well as the sub-regional planning teams, have been doing everything possible to sort of stretch those dollars as far as possible. So I just I'm really big on sort of circling back to be like, I heard you, I made a commitment, and Tony and Beth delivered on that promise. And so I just want to acknowledge that we are requesting more funding for severe weather response, because we agree with you, right? Like we want to do more, and we can't do more if we don't have more resources. And Ruby, I would just really encourage you and others who are interested in collaborating on severe weather related stuff in work to just reach out to Tony and us. I think I just want to uplift that. Ruby, you've recently been wanting us to ensure that we start up the cross-cutting policy work group. And I want to make sure that we are sort of launching those work groups that you're requesting sort of like in the order that you're requesting them, because I feel like that one is also really important to you and to this group. So I just wanted to sort of share that back, that sort of let's strategize and think about timing to make sure that the COC board is also being intentional about sort of not standing up like a bunch of work groups at the same time, and want to make sure that the community has the opportunity to also digest what each work group is for, and to sign up and volunteer to participate, to make sure that just the sort of access experience and is thought through. So thank you all so much. And thank you, Tony, and all the board members and all the members of the COC membership and public for all your questions. Really appreciate you.
Thank you, Alon. Dorsal.
Thank you, Alon. I kind of agree, and was wanting to say kind of similar to some of what he just said. I'm not against the idea or the concept of the committee. In fact, it might be one in my own time I might be willing to serve on. I'm just concerned. One, I'm not entirely clear even at this stage what the committee's primary mission objective is going to be, which I would kind of want to understand before fully forming the committee. And then we are in the process of standing up several other committees and kind of looking at our own structure. And so I worry that if I'm asked to vote on this committee now, I'm not prepared to make a good decision based on our capacity and our mission ability to best plug in here. I'm supportive of us continuing to monitor the severe weather shelter situation and supporting that effort, but I'd almost like to ask us to consider tabling this to kind of create more of an opportunity to kind of flesh this out and think about it before starting it.
Thank you, Dorsal. I will offer just historical context for the standing of this committee again. When the KCRHA was first formed, it received all of its playbooks and plans from the city and the county. They were always centered around a municipal systemic approach to a very human problem. It's where the KCRHA first centered the voices of lived experience, challenging what tiers look like, what services were actually being rendered, And if more money was the need, then the community could have asked for it. Because without the political will, there's no shift in funding and services. Well, that was back in 2021. Once we had a playbook, we had a couple of severe weather periods, and the KCRHA has been in flux in its capacity to staff and or expand what work that Peter, Shanae, and others from the other board spent many months working on leading up to the first winter severe weather response. So I hear clearly, hopefully it's a better context of just starting something up again, because it seems that the process has stalled. When we have a severe weather response system, that it can't meet necessarily people where they are or the need. And it's clear that we're drifting away from centering on the needs of the community, not always what's comfortable for the systems provided. Hope that helps. Alon? And then I would like, if there's any, if there's any other, we can ask Tamara if she would like to move our motion forward.
Thank you so much. Alon Gutierrez, he, him, his, one of two deputy chief program officers at the King County Regional Homelessness Authority. I do just want to lift up that while I absolutely hear your feedback, Co-Chair Futrell, that KCRHA has actually really centralized and improved our current staffing for our severe weather response by clarifying roles and responsibilities. You're absolutely right that we did inherit some materials from other agencies. However, they were in vast need of improvements, and which we have made those improvements on an ongoing basis through the process which Tony has outlined as it relates to the sort of deactivation and debriefing component of severe weather response. After every single severe weather response, whether it is a tier 2 or tier 3 activation, there is an intentional debriefing that occurs where the KCRHA team that is involved comes together and looks at the current playbook and all of the materials and any updates that may need to be made to account for new and emerging factors that have, for example, maybe not historically come up, right? Like there was that very unique ice storm, which I was not yet in Seattle for last year, or it's 2024 now. So I guess that was 2022 or 2023. Okay, thank you, Tony. But I just really want to say that like this work has not been stagnant at all. We every activation improve our playbook. And I also want to sort of stress that the sort of the capacity differential between tier 2 and tier 3 activations is major, right? So like the capacity for our severe weather sheltering response is much more significant when we get to that tier 3 threshold, because that is when we are able to activate city-owned sites to like really dramatically expand capacity. I also want to say that through Tony and Beth's leadership and the leadership of the Subregional Planning and Emergency Services team, they were actually able to expand further and beyond what has been most recently available during tier 3 activations. And so I want to make sure that we're also like telling the true story, the sort of complete and true story about what has happened and everything that the team and our incredible nonprofit partners have been doing to expand. There has been a lot of work, and it sounds like there's opportunities for us to use our weekly co-chair planning meetings to talk more about severe weather, but I would be remiss to just not acknowledge the amazing work that our partners, our nonprofit partners are doing, as well as my colleagues, and just giving them a shout out, because I used to be really involved in severe weather response and I'm no longer involved. And so I have to, I just want to make sure that there's sort of a full story being shared about what's going on. And obviously there's totally more, again, that, you know, we want to do. And when I say we, I mean like literally all of us, right? Like it's not enough no matter what. So we don't disagree at all. And we've sort of carried through on our commitment and promised to request additional funds as I committed to earlier in 2020 or late in 2023. Thank you so much again.
Thank you, Alon. Sherry, and then I will pass this to Tamara to try to figure out this motion. Sherry?
Hi.
Hi.
So I just want to say, I didn't want to piggyback as being kind of Mary Space for the director of the intake line. But I just want to say that dealing with severe weather, that is the hardest time for us, because we want to make sure that we get all the families that call in, as well as, you know, working with Tony. I just have to give him some props because and his team, because I appreciated all the things that we asked for, as far as asking, you know, to let us know, you know, in a timely manner so that I have time to prepare with my team. And I just want to say I thank you for that, because it makes it easier, as well as when we need something like more money, with me and Janice collaborating for YWCA, you know, you all are on top of that. And I just want to say I appreciate you for that. So I'm just giving the shout out.
Thank you. Tamara?
Yeah, I'd like to amend my motion to table this committee stand up until a future date. I'm not sure what that date would be, but I also invite people to reflect on their capacity. I know that this is something that I would be very much interested in, but my capacity, you know, is not too, it's not too big right now. So just thinking about capacity and tabling this for, I don't know, 1 or 2 meetings from now.
Right. Jaja, will you extend the second?
I will
To that
extend that
amendment
second
motion.
to that amendment.
All righty. Any further discussion? 1, 2, 3. Ruby? I can't see.
Next on the agenda.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're next.
Yep.
Says Performance Committee update.
And cool. Thank you, Chair. I appreciate that. I am going to stay off camera because I'm on my computer, and sometimes that does make it a little finicky. So I'm just making sure everybody can hear me okay.
Yes.
Great. Thank you. Awesome. So I wanted to thank everybody for being here today, in person or virtual, and that includes members of our community. The System Performance Committee always meets monthly on the 3rd Wednesday from 2 to 4 p.m. And our most recent meeting was on February 21st, 2024. We had BitFocus join us, and they presented the 2024 HMIS work plan, which the committee voted to approve. And then we received the user report out, which currently has 142 organizations for the HMIS system. Sorry, I didn't say that. The HMIS user report out, which has 142 organizations and over 1,400 active users with more than 10,000 logins per month and just over 700 programs. So this year, the System Performance Committee is focusing energy on developing new metrics that are developed by us and allows for us to measure other aspects other than just the required HUD metrics, which the HUD metrics are things like length of time experiencing homelessness before getting into housing, returns to homelessness, and then program utilization rates. We are exploring how to measure important aspects like program efficiency, efficacy, and employee retention. My co-chair of the System Performance Committee and our CoC board member, Tamara Bauman, has also been the driving force behind the incorporation of well-being into all of our work. So Tamara did lead us in an informational portion on the Full Frame Initiative's Wellbeing Blueprint. We discussed what measurements committee members consider important or detrimental to the evaluation of the entire response system. We discussed feasible methods, and as a committee, we're learning how the required HUD system performance measures work within our system. And I think we might actually, as a board, learn about those within the next few meetings, I think. So we'll look forward to that. We also had Leah from our coordinated entry staff come and provide an in-depth look into the nomination process for individuals through the daily case conferencing into coordinated entry, and also an additional overview of the entire process as a whole. So I wanted to make sure I told you when our next meeting is going to be, which again is the third Wednesday of every month, and it's going to be March 20th, 2024, from 2 to 4 p.m. And we're going to be focusing again on the metrics, but we also have a few more updates that we're going to be learning about here. So we'd love it if you came. And we also wanted to tell you that we are hiring on the committee, right? So we're looking for people to be participating with us, and you can find the webpage on the kcrha.org webpage. You can find the application process under the same tab that you can find our meeting link, which is under the Continuum of Care board page. So we're hoping to fill those few seats, and I encourage those interested to apply. So that is our System Performance Committee update, and I thank you. Back to you, Marvin.
Thanks, Ruby. Are there any questions? Once again, I can't see the attendees list.
I do not see any questions at this time.
Righty. Thank you both, Ruby, for your report out, and Tamara for your service. Once again, the meetings are the third Wednesday, 2 to 4 p.m. And we're looking for folks to seat that committee, and its application is on the KCRHA webpage under the Continuum of Care Board, under System Performance Committee. Thank you. Up next on our agenda for today is a preview of the CoC Notice of Funding Opportunity 2023 debrief. This is the most recent one we've written. And if Alon would be so kind as to help guide us through that.
Thank you for your patience. I'm just pulling up my documents. Sorry, I thought I had a few more minutes because I anticipated the last presentation taking a bit longer, so I will be sharing momentarily.
Hey, Lon, I just wanted to point out in the chat or in the Q&A, there were some questions asked by Jade. And Jade, I just want you to know that I am marking these down, and we will get back to you as soon as possible in our next meeting.
Thank you, Alex. And just, I just want to say it's as KCRHA and CoC board members, it's all of our responsibility to just keep sort of aware of the questions and answers in the chat. I just want to make a call to action that we collectively ensure that we are being responsive to Q&A. Thank you so much. And I am here today. Again, my name is Alon Gutierrez. I use he, him, his pronouns. I'm one of 2 Deputy Chief Program Officers at the King County Regional Homelessness Authority. Today, I'm here to provide a preview to you all as to our fiscal year 2023 Continuum of Care Notice of Funding Opportunity application that we submitted on September 29th, 2023. KCRHA very heartily is pleased to announce that all of the existing projects were funded from the prior year. So there was no sort of loss to any of our programs, with the caveat that we did have one agency relinquish their grant and not choose to reapply for their funds. So that was an intentional decision to wind down a program. So that's the one caveat, but everything that we applied for in terms of our existing projects were funded. Additionally, we had one bonus project funded, Roy Street, which is a transitional housing to rapid rehousing, or what HUD refers to as a joint component project that was funded. So that was our one bonus project that was funded. Like many continuums of care across the United States, just so we're all aware, there's over 400 continuums of care in the United States. Every year, HUD recalculates the fair market rents that are applied to the rental assistance budget line items within continuum of care grants. And so when the fair market rents go up, then our continuum of care grant awards go up. So this year there was actually a significant increase to the FMR. So like we had a total like net increase of over $7 million to our award, which the vast majority of was to increases to the fair market rents. This is really great for our existing continuum of care funds funded with rental assistance, because those providers often face increasing costs of doing business and managing their properties and sites, and needing to keep up with, an overheated rental market, so to speak. What I mean by that is sort of, we are in one of the many sort of high cost rental markets in the United States where there's, continued pressure on renters and tenants to pay more and more for the cost of a SRO studio, 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom, and beyond. And so these increases to our FMR are really invaluable, especially as they help us to sort of keep up with the costs of, what units cost. So, again, all of our projects were preserved, which is fabulous. We also got one bonus project funded, which we're very excited about. Transparently, you all know by now, if you have been participating in these meetings, that one of my values and one of the things that I have been consistent in is being a transparent colleague to you all. And so I do want to share with you all that this year, or rather last year, for the FY 2023 Continuum of Care Notice of Funding Opportunity application, that we did experience a significant reduction in the points that our Continuum of Care was awarded. And while we got that reduction in points, everything was preserved and we got a bonus project. And so we have our work cut out for us, both KCRHA and the Continuum of Care Board, right, to ensure that we are sort of paying attention to what we can learn from our Continuum of Care, our FY 2023 Continuum of Care application debrief, and what we can do now to sort of turn the tide and make sure that we sort of reverse what happened. To be transparent, there was a reduction in a little over 40 points to our score, which is significant. And so part of the reason why I wanted to share this with you all today is because we need your support and partnership to ensure that the Continuum of Care Board is focused on our Continuum of Care's performance. We want to ensure that these agendas are really connected to how we are doing as a community, because this is so, so important as it relates to maintaining our funding. And so I'm very grateful for the time and for being on the agenda. I do see your hand and I would like to get through my update before I respond to questions. I am going to share my screen. So I'm literally sharing with you the CoC application debrief. So first, what I want to share with you all is that there's 200 points available for this Continuum of Care application. This year, we received 134.5 points. And last year, we received 177.5 points. So that is a 43-point reduction. And this is why I am very excited to be here today with you all to discuss how important it is that we continue to focus on system performance, on issues that are really directly connected to the Continuum of Care Board's roles and responsibilities, because this is what is actually going to be a game changer, is if we continue to ensure that we are collectively focused and mobilizing our outstanding membership around these issues. I am gonna quickly, so another thing that I'm gonna share related to the Continuum of Care program competition debriefing, HUD doesn't give us like the debrief on everything, right? So we don't have like a point by point breakdown on every single sort of scoring. They give us the gems, so to speak. They give us some of the like, you got full points, and then they'll highlight where maybe we got hit in a sort of lost a bunch of points. Housing first, we got 10 out of 10 points. So I'm just sharing that in that, like, for those of you who are maybe like adding in your head, like 10 plus 3 plus whatever, like it's not going to add up to 200 in all these rows. So I'm gonna move through these. We receive full points in our housing first and outreach sections. One thing I want to highlight related to our rapid rehousing beds, we received 0 points on this because every year, and especially recently, HUD has had a very specific focus on increasing rapid rehousing bed availability in continuums of care. So for continuums of care that like don't year over year increase the number of rapid rehousing bed slots or beds that are available, they lose 9 points. And that's huge. I'll spare my feelings of that. But what I will say is that I spent nearly 3 years as the lead of San Francisco's Continuum of Care. And this is really hard when it comes to a lot of rapid rehousing campaigns have one-time slots, meaning once Alon gets housed and once Alon exits housing through his rapid rehousing subsidy, the slot goes away because it's a really great use of one-time funds, right? We can dedicate 2 years of funding or some amount of funding to support and house Alon through rapid rehousing. And then the slot can go away, right? It's a strategy that many communities use. But there's a sort of immediate negative impact as it relates to the COC sort of scoring rubric. So this is something that breaks my heart because I think it's much more complex than just sort of dinging communities. However, HUD are our partners and we will find a way. So just want to highlight, right? Like there's 9 points right there, which is big. Partnerships with public health is an area where we lost some points, and this is an area of significant interest for KCRHA going forward, and we look forward to discussing these in future meetings. We also lost points in our rank and review process. So we usually would get full points, but we wanted to actually make sure that we could apply for bonus funds, because we actually didn't have enough bonus projects applying and sort of coming in to apply. So the trade-off here is we lost 3 points, but if we didn't sort of go with this trade-off, we wouldn't have had Roy Street get funded. So from my perspective, this is worth the hit. I am not an LSA pro, so I'm not going to try to stunt on that, but it's 1 point and I'm going to ask for your forgiveness. So this is another really important thing, right? We lost 12 points, length of time homeless, right? This is why I'm sort of saying earlier at the top of the meeting where I'm like, really want to focus on system performance. And we are extremely interested in reducing the amount of time that households spend experiencing homelessness before they are referred to housing. KCRHA is really focused on this issue right now, increasing the rate and reducing the amount of time from referral from our regional access point to housing is of utmost importance. And we do anticipate engaging our regional access point partners in the very near future about discussing strategies and approaches to mitigate this issue. You will see also related loss of points in exits. We look forward to digging into that. I'm gonna harp on these things, and so I'm just gonna pause here and then I'll stop talking. Again, I want to emphasize the biggest area of point loss was in system performance. There were 60 total points available and we only received a total of 30. This jives with the current work and focus and understanding of what our current key priorities are as a direct recipient for the continuum of care, which is to focus on the improvement of our overall system and its performance. KCRHA looks forward to listening closely, learning in partnership with, and collaborating with members of the Continuum of Care membership, CoC board members, all of our Continuum of Care subrecipients, as well as, and most centrally, people with living and lived experience who know best about how we can improve performance. Thank you so much. Happy to answer questions.
Sorry, Martha has her hand up. And next is Tamara.
Thanks, Alex, and thanks so much, Alon, for walking us through that debrief. That is incredibly helpful information to just like see, and we'll like take it in. I just wanted to, I think, follow up with one piece, and maybe it will also lend to some like urgency and focus on this, so we can tee up, you know, even stronger application for FY24. Because when we look at the holistic funding picture for FY23, we did have one of our King County awards we made $2 million available for reallocation. And so ultimately, like, that's $2 million less from kind of the existing awards. And then we got one new project for about $1 million. But so there's that, what to me I read as like a loss of funding.
And that's you, Jay? Oh. Oh.
So I think I just wanted to name that for transparency and then confirm my understanding.
Thank you for clarifying that. It sounds like there was an omission in my presentation, and we will circle back with an update at the next meeting. Thank you for raising that.
Hi, this is Tamara. And I don't know like how to ask this question, but how likely is it for HUD to realize that the length of stay is entirely dependent on the community conditions that are generally geared towards, like, first of all, we have an upside down tax code, and we also don't prioritize, we're starting to prioritize lived experience, but we're also not talking about the root causes of homelessness, the structural root causes. And is HUD ever going to pay attention to that piece? Because we can educate them as folks with lived experience. I'm happy to do that education, but they also have to invest in the workers that are actually doing the systems change work on the ground, and support nonprofits and doing some advocacy around homelessness. And there's so many different ways that we can like maybe improve on that metric if HUD would just take into consideration that living here in Seattle King County is much different than living in, what's some rural area in Nevada, or, and it's very different living here than it is in other parts of the country. So the metric needs to be more customized to each of our communities. Yeah, and that's all I wanted to say. But HUD, you have to listen to your communities. If you want to listen to lived experience, you also have to listen to your communities.
Thank you, Tamara. Dorsal has his hand up.
Thank you. This Dorsal. The only question I have is there an opportunity for us to attempt to identify, or have we already identified other COCs that scored better in the areas where we lost points that are similar kind of in size and cost of living, that we might be able to kind of learn from or kind of take some lessons from?
Ron?
Through the chair, if I may. Thank you, Dorsal. I love that question. I'll say personally, I wish all COC's debriefs were available on HUD's website, and they are not. Because just like you, right, I'm like, I would really love to know, like, how is New York, how is Austin, how is Portland, how is San Francisco, because I'm from there. And now that I've switched sides, I'm like endlessly competitive with them. In these other big communities, right? I think that I do want to acknowledge we have I think Susan Starrett in our attendees, and she is one of our federal technical assistance partners. And Susan may have more context on this question because it's quite salient, Dorsal, and I see that Susan is potentially able to speak to this. So I will pass the mic over to Susan Starrett. And please remember to introduce yourself, your pronouns for the captioner.
Absolutely. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. Hi, everyone. Susan Starrett, she, her pronouns with CSH. In response to Tamara first, then Dorsal. So system performance measures you are measured against yourself. So when you submit your system performance measurement data every year, which it's due soon, next week, when HUD scores your continuum of care application, it is how you performed as a continuum against yourself this year compared to last year and the years before, right? Wanting to see changes, may not be significant changes, but wanting to see changes from your community's performance year over year. So the system performance measures themselves are nationwide. Every continuum is scored on them, but again, the change is your community and how you perform against yourself. To Dorsal's point, I will find this, but there is a data wonk out there who not COC scoring But system performance measures, they're looking at LSA, which is the longitudinal statistical analysis data. There is someone out there who, whenever HUD publishes data across continuums, they do a analysis of that. So I am going to go searching again for that link, and I will put it into the Q&A if I can find it during this meeting. If not, I will make sure that it gets to you all after.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you, Susan.
Alon Gutierrez, he, him, his, one of two deputy chief program officers at the King County Regional Homelessness Authority. I would encourage the CoC board co-chairs and members to consider if Susan can identify that data whiz and who they are, that we may want to consider inviting them to a future CoC board meeting as we are exploring and thinking about ways to improve our score during the 2024 Continuum of Care Notice of Funding Opportunity application. I see some additional hands. I'm going to stop talking and thank you for your time.
Thank you, Alon. And I can't see all of the hands because I'm trying to look
You
also
want
at
to
the
ask
chat.
Jay this question?
I want to ask one question from the chat. Alon, did you say that HUD is increasing the amount of units specific for the rapid rehousing program? Or is it that program getting more funding to increase applicants?
That's a question and answer.
Sorry. Thank you for your patience. Alon Gutierrez, he, him, his, one of two deputy chief program officers at the King County Regional Homelessness Authority. In response to this question in the chat from an individual named Jade, again, I am speaking very plainly because we have a closed captioner and it's crucial that we as a community are creating an accessible space for all of our CoC board members and membership. So I'm going to continue to remind us all not to be annoying, but because we'll get our muscle memory and it's going to become real, like, natural. Thank you so much, Jade, for your question. In your question, you said, did you say that HUD is increasing the amount of units specific for the rapid rehousing ? Or is it that the program getting more funding to increase applications ? Did I misunderstand ? To answer your question, HUD, as part of the FY 2023 CoC Notice of Funding Opportunity application, had 9 total points available for continuums of care that increased their total rapid rehousing slots compared to the prior year. So HUD would, for example, award continuums of care those 9 points if they got more rapid rehousing slots up to this specific threshold, so long as they were HMIS participating, so long as they were referred through coordinated entry, but regardless of their funding source. So it could have been a philanthropically funded rapid rehousing program, but if it was an HMIS participating program, if it took referrals through coordinated entry, if we sort of got up to that sort of threshold of increasing the slots, then we would have gotten those points. So to answer your question, HUD did not necessarily provide more dedicated funding that was then sort of directly connected to those specific points. However, as always, HUD had bonus funds available, which could have been used for rapid rehousing programs that would be implemented in the future. But as it relates to getting those points, that was more of a sort of retrospective view, looking back at the increase in slots from the prior year. Happy to, it's as always with HUD, things are complicated. So happy to answer your question. Susan Sterrett is here also to, if I misspoke at all, Susan, I do invite you to correct me.
Thank you. Martha?
Thank you. Yes, Martha Sassarosi, she, her pronouns, CoC board member. I'm just going to elevate a couple other questions from the chat that I see, including a couple from fellow board member Christina. So one question is, how many bonus projects were not funded? And I believe the answer is 8. There were a total of 9 bonus project applications. The top ranked project was funded, leaving 8 not funded, I believe. Is that right?
That question was for
Thank you for
Alon.
bearing with me. Through the chair, Alon Gutierrez, he, him, his one of 2 deputy chief program officers at the King County Regional Homelessness Authority. I'm working on one screen right now, so that's why it's taking me a little extra time to navigate from the chat to unmute. Board member Sassarosi is correct. And I responded to that question in the chat to confirm that a total of 8 out of 9 bonus projects were not funded. Thank you.
Great. And then the other question was, what program dropped out? What area did it serve? And do we know why they chose to not reapply?
Through the chair, Alon Gutierrez, he, him, his one of 2 deputy chief program officers at the King County Regional Homelessness Authority. Thank you for your question surrounding which project dropped out of the application process. That organization is the Low Income Housing Institute, who also known as Lehigh, who did not choose to apply for their Martin Court renewal application. Had to do, my understanding is related to funding sort of restrictions, but I do not want to sort of share inaccurate information. I can come back next month with updates to request a formal comment from them as to the reasons surrounding their decision to not apply. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Already, I look forward to continuing the conversation on this, because hopefully we will never lose the unique fact that we are centering the voices of our community. And that does clash with the systemic scoring methods of HUD. It is not our first round with this, but together I think we will be able to score well and challenge HUD to look at things as we see them. So the last thing on our agenda is gearing up for a CoC convening that usually starts with a work group. Alon, do you have any information on this for folks?
Through co-chair Ruchel, Alon Gutierrez, he, him, his pronouns, one of 2 deputy chief program officers at the King County Regional Homelessness Authority. Thank you all so much for attending the Continuum of Care convening in December 2023. That was my first convening with you all, and it was fabulous. I so appreciate you all for showing up. That was a virtual convening, and we are very excited for our next convening to be an in-person convening. And I am concerned that we have just 6 minutes left on the agenda, and I do not think that we have sufficient time to give this agenda item its diligence and justice that it needs. And I would recommend, in alignment with the CoC board co-chairs and members' requests at our recent CoC board retreat last week, that We have hopes and dreams of increasing our continuum of care convenings from 2 to 3 in 2024. And thusly, I recommend your consideration to include this item at the top of the following meeting agenda. Thank you so much.
Yes.
Awesome. The chair has no problem advancing that to the top of the next agenda, if that is the will of the board. Anyone can move it.
I move that we move this item, the CoC convening work group from Alon to our agenda, top of the agenda.
In April. Okay.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Please say aye.
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 All opposed, say nay. Any abstaining? I just want to follow forward here. I get the general consent that that would be possible, Alon. We'll be happy to move it to the next month agenda. So I want to, is there anything else for the good of the order today?
I just want to point out,
Go ahead.
excuse me, this is Alex Piffner, she, her pronouns. I just want to point out that Galena did post something in the chat. And that Tamara does have her hand up.
Yeah, it's just fun and good food and music and silent auction, usual rigmarole if you feel like coming this Saturday.
All right. Tamara?
Yeah, I'm just wondering what the strategy will be for marketing the CoC convening. Like, how will we be sending out mass emails or like recruiting through our networks? Or I just want to make sure that everybody that is a member actually knows that there's a convening, because I think there's some folks that were left out or didn't get the information they needed to join. So just wondering what that strategy will be.
Alon, if you'd like to answer, I will share that one of our lessons learned was getting our save the date out earlier, getting our work group together, setting the save the date and getting it out to the Continuum of Care membership while we worked our individual communities that may not be part of the membership to join the membership so they can be part of the convening. I think it was more of the time we had, didn't allow us to get it out in advance so folks could attend. We're hopefully planning on having 8 weeks or more for the planning, having the event, and then moving on to the next one. Ruby.
Thank you, Chair. Just wanted to kind of piggyback off what Galena was offering. On Thursday, we have the art walk that goes on in Belltown and Pioneer Square, and we have actually a that's showing portraits of homeless people that are experiencing homelessness and also a little bit of their story. So I really wanted to encourage anybody that has the time on Thursday, first Thursday of the month, to go to Base Camp Studios, which is in Belltown on First Avenue, and there's going to be a lot of really interesting and really really touching art. So I hope to see you guys there. Thank you.
Thank you. It is now 3:58. If nothing else for today's meeting, I'll give everybody a couple minutes back to their day.
Hey,
Thanks
everybody.
everyone for joining. Thank you for coming.
Tamara,
Thank
you
all of our
sound
attendees.
gorgeous, handsome young man.
Enjoy the rest of your week. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Sam, you too.
Thank you.